Let's deal with the definition. Let's define what piracy is. Piracy is defined from Middle Latin piratia, from Greek piratia, derived from and derivative, and then come down to pirate. Now, it's defined as robbery of ships on the high seas. That's the first definition of piracy. The first definition of piracy is robbery of ships on the high seas. Second definition for piracy is the unauthorized publication, reproduction, or use of a copyrighted or patented work. And this is what makes this whole thing very, very interesting, because this one thing is going to dovetail into something else, just as the Somali pirate incident, unbeknownst to most happy, jolly Americans and Westerners, is actually going to dovetail into something totally different, something totally more pernicious, more dangerous, and it's another sign of the prophetical end times prophecy. Take another look at Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39 if you want to get a little bit of a heads up on this. But let's now look at pirate, so we're going to get a little better, clearer definition of what pirate means. Pirate, from Middle English, derived from Latin pirata, which is derived from the Greek pirates, from pyron, which means to attempt or attack. To attempt or to attack. Now, when we go to the Indo-European base, per means to bring through, to penetrate, and fear. So to bring through and to penetrate. Now, the connotative definition is, because we just dealt with the etymology, the connotative definition is a person who practices piracy. Let's get clear on this. Who are the real pirates? Who are the original pirates? Especially a robber of ships on the high seas. One must remember that slavery, the slavery of the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the Beit Israel, was conducted by pirates. European, Eurocentric, Anglo-American pirates. You understand? But they romanticize piracy, the real piracy that has gotten this world into the present situation that it's in, into what's going on currently on the Horn of Africa. But you all remember, we talked much and we sought to communicate and to give you a heads up on the Horn of Africa. We said this to you before, that the Horn of Africa is going to play a significant role in the end times, in the end of white supremacy, in the end of the Anglo-American conspiracy, New World Order. All of that is going to end in the Gulf of the Garden of Eden, called the Gulf of Aden, otherwise known as the Horn of Africa, i.e. Somalia. But let's get clear on this. The first connotative definition of pirate, we had to look this up so we can become a little more clear on this, is a person who practices piracy. A person who practices piracy in attacking other vessels or robber of ships on the high seas. Secondly, a pirate is used for the ship that is used by pirates in attacking other vessels. During the slave trade of the Anglo-Americans, the British, very big in piracy, and we can trace them back to even the Phoenicians, and we could touch on that in another dissertation. But the Americans as well, piracy, Jamaica. We know about Pirates Bay and how Jamaica was in the Caribbean. Many of the Caribbean islands were taken over by pirates. The pirates actually worked for the British imperial government. You understand? The pirates also worked in establishing America. America was established by piracy. Britain, Great Britain, so-called UK, got its fortune and became the empire which the sun never sets on because of piracy. So it's very interesting to see this hypocritical, this amnesiatic state that Americans especially, but a lot of people all around the world are in. You understand? Because when they think of piracy in the past, the first thing they think of is the Pirates of the Caribbean, Johnny Depp, so forth and so on. They don't think of the slave trade. what we're trying to have you focus on is that piracy in history is connected and very intimate. It's in bed with slavery. You understand? Most of the Negroes over here in the Western world that trace their ancestors back to the slave trade, you understand, were victims, you understand, of piracy. You understand? But that's old time piracy. I want you to become familiar with what the new time piracy is and how this connects with the internet, how this connects with so-called freedom of speech, and how they will use these laws, you understand, that have already been put on the books years ago. I mean, there's so many laws that are on the books but are not enforced, you understand, that will be used once again when the right time and opportunity. In our job, you understand, as an apostle of Rastafari knowledge, as well as the good news of his imperial majesty and his Christ, is to reveal this to you before, to tell you this before it happens, not after it happens. Yovas. Now let's touch on the second. We touched on the second. Let's go to the third. One who engages. Now here's where the rubber meets the road, because a pirate is defined in modern day usage legally. You know what the Somalians have done in a sense was open up a breach, you understand, in this whole white supremacy Anglo-American, the so-called maritime laws and the laws of the high sea. In fact, when you touch on maritime, you have to connect that with martial law. In fact, the idea of martial law and what we have as today's common law is very much connected with maritime law, and maritime law and martial law are all connected. You're going to have to do a little bit of research on this if you want to get more of the 411, but we're just seeking to point you in the right direction. So maritime law is the law of the high seas. Great Britain was established by piracy, you understand, by a practice, a legalized form of piracy, you understand, which began off the modern day slave trade of the Beta Israel of the Ethiopian Hebrews, the lost sheep of the house of Israel, into Europe, as well as their children, the daughter of America, the daughter of England, which is actually America, is the daughter of England. In the prophecy, you'll see how that all connects, the mother and daughter paradigm right there. Picked up on this from their mother, from Mother England, from Britannia, so forth and so on. But in modern day usage, a pirate is one who engages in illegal recording, transmission, or reception of radio or TV broadcasts. How many of you remember that song back from in the I think it was the 80s? It was it the late 80s, early 90s, that came out of from the reggae and Rastafari and reggae community, I think out of England. They call us pirates, illegal protesters, just because we play what the people want. They call us pirates. You remember that song? Illegal protesters, just because we play what the people want. People were being arrested, people were being fined, people were being jailed, you understand, for broadcasting signals and information back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and they called those individuals pirate radio. Remember pirate radio? Pirate broadcasting. So before everybody wags the finger against so-called piracy, let us understand piracy first of all in its etymological definition. Piracy, Great Britain's fortune, America becoming also a country, and slave trade was all based on piracy. After they controlled the world and controlled the sea lanes and everything, then they came together and they made this international law of the seas, which everybody's to abide by. So when you hear about America talking about we will not tolerate piracy, Obama slipped up a little bit. If you listen to the recording, he said actually privacy. We will not tolerate privacy. He made that slip. You could go look it up and everything. But it wasn't really a slip. We have to ask ourselves, was it a slip? You understand? Because it's not illegal for the government to tap your phone lines, tap your conversation, tap into your email, so forth and so on. It's not illegal for them to do it because they passed the law. And now that they passed this law, the only thing you can do, you understand, is submit to this law. You do not have any real rights I mean, you have a right to get drunk. You have a right to go out to the party. You have a right. Let's deal with the definition. Let's define